advocating for the officials themselves. They wanted them to be mentally evaluated and for their salaries to be increased so that they would have fewer reasons to extort. On the 11th, as the protests gained momentum, the Nigerian police finally scrapped SARS.
The Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police, otherwise known as SARS, is hereby dissolved.
But people weren't buying it. This wasn't the first time the police was claiming to reform SARS. By then, the demonstrations had become more of a movement anyways, and people were demanding not just for police reforms, but for better governance.
It's not the SARS anymore. It's not the SARS anymore. There is hunger in the land. Economy is poor. There is no light.
On Monday, the 19th, Lagos Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu formed a judicial panel to look into SARS abuses. But the protests continued still. And save for some cases of police crackdowns, they were largely peaceful, although criminal elements have started to infiltrate. As thousands of protesters gathered again at Lekki Tollgate on Tuesday, October 20th, they noticed that things were different. People told me that they saw tollgate staff removing CCTV cameras installed in the area, and that as evening fell, the streetlights wouldn't come on, leaving the place completely dark. At around 4 p.m., Governor Sanwo-Olu imposed a curfew, trying to instill order, but many protesters at the tollgate remained there. Then, at around 7, men of the Nigerian army rode in on several vans and started to shoot at the unarmed demonstrators.
They are shooting at us. They are shooting.
Eyewitnesses told me they counted several bodies that night, taken away by the army.
But it wasn't over. As word of the killings traveled, angry mobs took to the streets, looting shops, burning buildings, and attacking policemen. 12 people died, according to Amnesty International, and many more were injured. The Nigerian government has set up judicial panels to look into police violence, but denies the killings of October 20th.
Nigeria's youth took to the streets and successfully had the controversial SARS police unit disbanded. But at least 12 people died on that night of what is now known as the Lekki Tollgate massacre. So what happens during such protests, and why do the police or army often react this way against peaceful protesters? Well, we spoke to a security expert here in Kenya, and this is what he had to say.
It's the day of the protests. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of people stream into the streets. The organizers had notified the police, but the sheer numbers are overwhelming. So how to react?
The ideal scenario is that any unit that is tasked to manage within that area of jurisdiction would go in to protect those rioters, those protesters, to get to their end game, in which case you present a petition to either a power or an agent of their target, and in a way to influence action or to just basically spell out their grievances. And once that is done, then go back home peacefully and retire peacefully.
So the police are supposed to protect, especially in countries which guarantee the right to freedom of assembly. In other words, the right to protest.
But then we've also just seen where there are excesses on the part of the riots and where, as we know it, infiltrators come in to take advantage of sheer numbers. And that's where, again, the infrastructure that's supposed to be providing security have got to be very vigilant to single out these actors and to relevantly apply force to, impede some of these actions and or to arrest them altogether.
What we've seen across the African continent, however, is that police are armed to their teeth. And in many cases, when the situation becomes more volatile, they fail to de-escalate. In Kenya's most recent protests, police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse even just a handful of people. And in footage that we filmed, officers used their firearms, even accidentally.
If you are to drag out a weapon and to shoot at whatever it is that is out there, there's got to be an existential threat to life. That is either the life of the operators themselves, of the security agency, and or there's wanton destruction of property, and or there's a risk to, threat to life, especially on the part of the people that are being protected.
In preparation for the FIFA World Cup in South Africa in 2010, police and security forces got special training to prepare them to control the crowds